Well, we are all called to spread the gospel. And if you're scrolling online, you may have come across our next guest who helps evangelize via social media. Father David Michael Moses is the parochial vicar at Christ the Good Shepherd in Spring, Texas, in the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston. He's also a popular presence online, where he shares stories of his priestly life with nearly 1 million followers on Instagram. Maybe this evening get the Busted Halo bump. We'll put him over the top. We'll keep an eye on it. We'll be scrolling during the show. Father David Michael also enjoys writing music, and his Concerts for Life have collectively raised over $1 million to assist women in crisis pregnancies. So welcome to the Busted Halo Show, Father David Michael Moses. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to this.
Oh, good to see you. Now, you are all over social media. People, Catholic can't hardly scroll without bumping into you. And was this something, so you're fairly newly ordained, but was this something you imagined would be integrated? Because you probably grew up, more in an era of social media than I did, growing up in the 80s. Were you kind of all along thinking, yes, this will work well with my priesthood, or did it just kind of fall upon you?
So I did grow up using social media, but honestly, I didn't think too much about the integration with ministry until
Right.
after I got ordained. And about 6 months into being a priest, I just had a very specific thought, which was, gosh, I love being a priest. I wish I had known what this looked like when I was discerning the priesthood in high school. Like, I wish I'd had more data about what priests did all day. So I thought, well, now I know what priests do all day because I am one. I should probably make a video about this. And the next day I was going to baptize quintuplets the next morning. And I thought
Whoa.
this is probably a once in a lifetime thing. I should probably like get a video of this.
Yeah,
And
let's
I
get
kind of
that.
just filmed the whole day and posted it online. And it was a surprisingly positive response from people. And it just kind of kept going from there.
I like how I was watching said video earlier today, and I like that you said that you do this before you baptize an infant. You splash yourself with the water just to remind yourself of what that's like for them.
That's right. That's right. You want to make sure that you know what they're going through so you can help them through it.
What has been? Well, let's start. How about this? Since we know that the internet and particularly social media can occasionally be polarizing. Let's start with the positive. What kind of reaction have you gotten from Catholics, even from some people I know here on our show? We hear frequently that people had been kind of away from the church or disconnected from their Catholic faith, and because of something they connected online, on the radio, on our website, in your case on social media, they've returned. Have you heard some positive stories like that?
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure you hear so many of these testimonies from people, and it's the best, right? I just got an email from a guy a couple weeks ago, said he hadn't been to confession in 25 years, and he saw one of the
Wow.
videos, and it was actually kind of a funny video, right? But he said what it helped him with was not to be afraid of confession, that this was a place of victory, and that the priest was not going to be mad at him that it had been a long time. The priest was going to be glad he's coming back, and so he said he finally went back and had just such a positive experience and wanted to let me know. So people coming back to confession. We have actually two people at my parish in the OCIA program who saw some of the posts, and then they
Oh,
started kind of
really?
going down the rabbit hole and started coming to some of the
Wow.
events, and now they're in the OCIA program. So and then especially ones for me hearing from young guys who are interested in priesthood, that seeing what priests do all day, seeing that the joy that comes with ministry naturally was a huge help in their discernment. So, for me, I just have a real heart. Sounds like you as well. Just for the lost sheep, the people out there who are maybe open and willing, but don't have a shepherd coming after them. And I had a
Mhm.
buddy of mine say recently, in today's day and age, people don't let you into their homes, but they'll let you into their phones. And so, if for me, very much that's the mission field,
It's true.
and the ground there is very fertile if we're willing just to cast the seed.
And unlike people that do door to door evangelism, which probably is not too much, but some still happens today, people can't close the door in your face. They might actually keep scrolling, but they might stop on you. They might say, "Let me turn on the sound. Let's see what he's saying." This guy, he looks like a young guy. He's wearing that priest collar. Do people really do that anymore? Do you get some of those kind of reactions? Like, "Are you really a priest?"
Oh, yeah. My
Yeah.
favorite comments are, I'm an atheist. Why is this popping up on my For You page? Like, why am I watching this? Why do I follow this guy? And that's
Oh,
when you're getting to the people, when they just, like you said, they see a random face. And I
right.
think for us as a church nowadays in modern society, people do, if maybe they've never encountered a priest before, they do kind of wonder, is this a real thing? And so that's a natural hook, that curiosity. God can really use that. They follow, they see some other videos, they see some funny stuff, and they start to see some of the serious stuff. And there's a real conversion that happens.
Mm. And yet, I started this line of questioning by saying that social media can go either way. You admit that. You talk about that in your online presence. You say, I believe the analogy you use is that it's kind of like a bad neighborhood.
I think, social media can be very addictive, right? And there could be lots of negatives to it. So the analogy I always use is they had the one you mentioned that it's like a bad neighborhood. I wouldn't recommend my whole family go live in a bad neighborhood. I wouldn't recommend my nieces and nephews go hang out at night in a bad neighborhood. But I do think every bad neighborhood should have a Catholic church, and every bad neighborhood should have a Catholic priest. And so I think that mission field is not necessarily for everybody. It definitely comes with dangers. But I think, as with any form of evangelization, it's worth going to the people, learning the language, learning the culture there, and then really trying to bring the fullness of the gospel.
Father David Michael Moses is our guest here on the Busted Halo Show. You may know him from his presence online, his website, Father David Michael Moses. All right, I'm going to turn into my Barbara Walters interview now, Father David Michael. So, have there been, you said it's like a bad neighborhood, and you're brave enough to be in that bad neighborhood. Have you had some pushback, even from people in the church?
I mean, you definitely will see sometimes negative comments and that kind of stuff, people who have had bad experience with the church. But again, for me, when I run into the negative comments, that's how I know that we're outside the walls of the church and that we're really reaching out to the people who probably need it the most. If the comments are always positive, then you're just talking to people who are probably already on board, So you definitely see negative sometimes, but that kind of pumps me up. I'm like, okay, here we go.
I actually meant more like people inside the church, like in the hierarchy or the front pew at Daily Mass, to go, why is he doing that internet thing?
Honestly, most people have been very, very supportive.
Oh, that's good.
And very, very positive. So I'm sure there's lots of opinions out there, especially when you post things online. I'm sure there's lots of different opinions. But for me, it's not about everybody liking me. It's about making sure we're going after the people who really need the gospel. And I really do feel I've been very affirmed that this is a very effective way of doing that.
Well, Father David Michael, I interview a lot of Catholic guests here on the Busted Halo Show, often on Zoom so we can see them in their natural habitat. Sometimes I see books behind them that they've written or awards. Very rarely do I see one of those YouTube, what is that, like for 1 million views or something? What's the little thing you got behind you?
It's for 100,000 subscribers on
100,000.
YouTube.
Oh, is that all? Just 100,000.
There you go.
What was it like when you first started seeing the numbers kind of go up and you're like, wait a minute, this is really working?
Well, for me, it was very much like, man, okay, we're able to reach people. I'm sure you're a priest as well. Our time is so constrained by so many things. And for me, when you preach a homily to so many people in one place, that's great. But if you want to preach to more people in that place, you have to then preach again, right? For me, the beauty of online presence is you can preach something, you can post something, then you can go do something else and it keeps preaching itself forever. And so for me, it really is about when you see the numbers, it's like, okay, this is a really high leverage way of reaching a lot of people in what otherwise is a very, very busy ministry as a priest.
Well, and I think I recall 20 years ago when I started this job, giving presentations at, for instance, priest retreats or convocations where a bunch of priests gets together and trying to convince them, record your homilies, put them up as a podcast. I know maybe you don't do it. There's got to be some young person in your congregation that knows how to do that. And yes, it's an extra step and you got to press record on the mic and all that kind of stuff. But boy, is it worth it. And, even then there's people dragging their feet. Nowadays, though, there's not too many of them, but one of the few blessings of that COVID pandemic is that a lot of times priests, particularly their Sunday homilies, are live streamed. And in many places, I know not every diocese allows this, but in many places, like you just said, they continue to live on so somebody can watch it later. And they are having a greater impact than just the people sitting right in front of them. So it's a little less of a lift for the individual priest to have that same gift of the impact beyond the pews.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I don't necessarily love the term influencers online. I think they can kind of have a negative connotation, but I do think in some sense, it's the reason we became priests is because we wanted to influence people, didn't we?
Yeah.
Right. We want to influence people toward the kingdom, toward goodness, toward the sacraments. And so I think even though things might start digitally, they can definitely end up sacramentally. And that's
Mhm.
often the starting point for people is something online that's kind of a low buy-in. No one's watching. They can just hop in and watch this homily, this live stream. And then the hope is that the Holy Spirit can keep working on their hearts and then bring them to the church physically.
Father David Michael Moses is our guest here on the Busted Halo Show, talking about his unique ministry, not only online, but you're also a full time, what we typically call an associate pastor, which in my experience is the busy one. Yeah, the pastor's got to deal with a lot of stuff. You know, he's got to pay the bills and the boiler broke, but you're the one doing a lot of the sacraments and stuff. And then you manage to squeeze in, find time for, for all the social media stuff. I remember you saying, somewhere that I saw in one of your videos on your website that you as a priest, you still are the same human person. You still have the same gifts. You didn't believe that when God called you to be a priest that you were supposed to drop all your other talents and gifts. And one of those is music, right?
Yeah, yeah. I tell people that a lot when they're thinking about, religious life or any kind of vocation. That in most cases, God definitely wants you to be surrendering of your life to Him. But the chances are He doesn't want to give up everything about you that makes you who you are, your gifts, your talents, your personality, your
Right.
sense of humor. In fact, He probably wants to keep those things and then use them for something a little bit bigger than yourself. And that's definitely been my experience throughout seminary and priesthood with my friends. And one of the things I've always enjoyed doing is writing music. And when I entered seminary, I kind of thought I'd be done with that. But the Lord has kind of continued to open opportunities. So each summer we do this thing called the Concert for Life, where I write all the music for it. We just put on a really big show as a fundraiser for a pregnancy center here in Houston. So all the proceeds go to women in crisis pregnancy situations. And the first year we had about 300 people. This was my first year entering seminary and raised about $50,000. And just each summer it's continued to grow. This past summer we did 3 shows that had 4,000 people between the 3 shows and
Well,
raised a couple $100,000. And it's just been a really fun way of promoting a good cause. And there's also then the whole band is all priests, right? Who are all
oh,
just
really?
awesome at their instruments. So it's 6 guys from all around the country flying in, and they're really elite
Wow.
musicians. I still write all the music, and so it's kind of become a natural vocations event a little bit too. Like I think when young guys see all the priests in the band, it kind of has to make you think a little bit about what God might be doing in your own life.
Father David Michael Moses is our guest here on the Busted Halo Show, and songwriter, performer, fundraiser for good causes, priest, social media. Now, you're at the 950,000 some odd Instagram followers, at least before the show you were. Before we sign off, you should check, make sure that you get the Busted Halo bump. Sometimes that
There it
happens.
is.
Now, do you have something planned? Because I know a lot of social media influencers, it seems like they have something in mind to do when they hit one of the big milestones, like 100,000 or 500,000 or a million. Have you got like a stunt planned or just balloons? Those Mylar
It,
balloons that a
It's
lot of
funny
people
you
do.
asked that because literally just today I made a note that I was like, we should probably think ahead about the 1 million. So you were a step ahead of me on that. I don't know. It'd be fun to maybe hear a million confessions or
What?
say a million Hail Marys or something, a million
Okay.
rosaries. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. It sounds like you're involving other people with that because it would
Yeah.
take you a while to hear a
Oof.
million confessions.
We'll see what happens. See what happens.
I thought you were going to give away like a free oven mitt or something. You really, now
That
I'm,
also
let's
might
see.
actually end up being much more reasonable.
We're here for your ideas.
Yeah, right.
Father David Michael, tell us a little bit about the Pilgrim Rosary, something you started.
Yeah, thanks for asking about that. So a couple years ago, I was hearing confessions one day, and there was some very nice ladies who were kind of running the line of the the confessions, and they just had bought a bunch
What
of
were they
these
doing? They
rosaries.
were running in the line. What?
They were kind of running the line, like managing, making sure people
Oh,
had their
manage. Oh, wow. You've
running
got
up and down the line.
you've got staff there in the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, man.
Well, this first parish I was assigned to. I was just young 25-year-old coming in, and they had 20,000 parishioners,
Ooh,
2,500 kids in faith formation.
mega
And
bad.
the average age was 20 in that parish. It was insane. We had
20?
An Easter mass with 3,000 people. So we had confessions
Wow.
sometimes for, I mean, 10, 12, 13 hours. Like it was insane sometimes. There was one time we
Wow.
had 70 people in line for confession at one point. So yeah, some days you actually did. The parish was just wild. So some days you really did need people who were kind of
Yeah.
helping to run the flow of things. And so this one day they had a bunch of rosaries. They were praying on them and they were giving them to the penitents. And I mentioned that to a priest friend of mine, and he said, "Hey, that's pretty awesome. That'd be kind of cool to keep that going. Like, what if they kept passing that rosary on to somebody else and they prayed and it kept going?"
Oh.
And I said, "Man, what if we put like a QR code on the rosary and people could scan it with their phones? They could log who they are, where they prayed it on a map, and then they could pass it on to that person, another person, and we could keep that going. They could see like where their rosary travels in the world."
Wow.
And it was just an idea. And literally within a couple months, I ran into this software developer and this rosary manufacturer and this person who, manufactures QR codes. And it seemed like the Lord just brought it all together. And so, yeah, now we have these custom QR medals on these rosaries that we've designed, and this beautiful software, this map of the world. And so you just pray on it, you scan it, and then you say where you are and who you are. And then it's just a really beautiful way of then inviting another person into Marian devotion, and then kind of seeing where your rosary travels throughout the world. So all the proceeds of that go to the Pregnancy Center as well.
I'm forgetting now what this is called, but isn't there some thing that people do with little tokens like that where they go somewhere and find them? It's not like Pokemon, but it's something else.
Oh, maybe you're thinking of like geocaching or something
Yes,
like that?
that's it. Geocaching. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I think
Is that what it's like?
Maybe so. Yeah, I'm not super familiar
Yeah.
with geocaching, but yeah, kind of like that, I think.
You knew the term, though. I just said it sounds like this.
He knows these things. That's you don't get
Didn't know the term. Didn't know the term. That's right. So.
That's the difference between a 60-year-old priest and a 30-year-old.
You kind of knew the concept. That's still
People
pretty
do
good.
this
There you
thing.
go.
What's
He's
it
in it.
called? Yeah.
People do this thing. Geocaching? Wow.
Yeah, that's it.
You
He's
nailed
got the
it.
terms. He's got the terms. Well, we're going to put some dates on our radio blog for this summer when you're going to do some more concerts for life with you and your other 5 priest friends. Tell us where those are going to be and when.
Yeah, we're doing a couple of shows this summer. So we have one in Iowa. I'm still nailing down the location for that. But we'll also be doing one in Midland.
You just want to go to Iowa.
Well, I have a buddy of mine who is in the band, and he really wants us to come out there.
Oh,
and do a
okay,
show,
come to
'cause
Iowa. All right.
He's kept coming to Houston. So shout out to Father Max Carson. We'll be out there August 4th this year. And then August 6th, we'll be out in Midland, Texas. A couple of the guys in the band are from there. And then in Houston, we'll have a real big show on August 8th. So if any of the listeners can join, honestly, I think sometimes people think like, oh, priests in a band, is that going to be like Gregorian chant or something? And we do one chant song,
Okay.
but the rest of the show is really, really high energy, and we work really hard to make it just super, super entertaining. So we have like funny skits and rap songs and breakdancing and some slower stuff and just all kinds of things, but we make it a lot of fun for the whole family. So I really would encourage people to come. There is just nothing else like it.
And you could certainly see examples of what Father David Michael is talking about on his website, on his social media, which, according to my crack staff, is roughly a 3,000 person Busta Halo bump that you got during the course of this interview.
That's what's up. That's what's up.
I mean, we just wrote 949,000 yesterday, and now it's 952. We had you in the promo running today. 3,000.
The promo was running on the channel all day.
Busted Halo pulls through again.
Yep.
I'll come back every day now.
Okay.
Keep that bump going.
Going by the
and
math,
don't-
we'll have to do 16 more days till you hit 1 million. That's not that bad.
Right.
There
yeah.
it is.
And we got to start really buckling down and going, what are we going to do with the million? We've got
Exactly.
some ideas
Yeah.
on the table. I don't know. We don't
It's
want to
quicker
rule
than you
anything
think.
out.
Yeah.
That's right. 1 million oven mitts. We'll just send them out.
With QR codes, of course.
At
With
the
QR
minimum-
code so you can travel.
Yeah, perfect. At the minimum, you got to go to CVS and get the Mylar balloons with the 1 and the K. Or no, M. 1 and the M. There you go.
Yeah.
M. 1M. That's cool. Because people always do that on Instagram. Like, "Oh, 1,
Totally.
Yeah.
We at least got to get that going.
Or a cake or, So thank you for not only sharing your gifts online in this very creative way, but also, and you're right, I can appreciate that you've also got another full-time job at parishes that have thousands of people. So thanks for using every spare moment that you have to continue to spread the word via all the modern means. Thank you.
No, 100%. Thank you so much for all the incredible work you and your team are doing. It's a real gift to the church.
Thank you.